True Story is a documentary podcast powered by the Institute of Documentary Film. You can find news from the world of film on all the common platforms such as iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, as well as on docweb.net.
Hello, everyone. My name is Péter Becz. I'm a Hungarian documentary filmmaker, and I'm extremely grateful and excited that I can be the moderator of today's discussion. We are part of KineDok's online events, where every time, well, usually on Mondays, there is an online discussion regarding one of the KineDok's films. You can always watch these films through the KineDok website, and then on the KineDok Facebook page, you can follow a discussion related to the film. Today we are discussing the film of Alexa Bakony, Colors of Tobi, which I think is it's a really, really important Hungarian film from the past few years, and I'm extremely happy to have the director of the film with us, Alexa, here in this live feed with us. We also have Matthias. Matthias is a board member and an office manager at Transparent, which is an organization that is focusing on trans rights in Prague, and also at the University of UCT, the Chemistry University of Prague. They are working with Spectrum, which is an LGBTQIA+ club. And we also have with us today Vlad Babenco. Vlad is the president of Culture Guides and Manager Associations, and also managing partner of Studio 55, beauty salon in Bucharest. And he's also a PhD candidate at the National University of Political and Administrative Studies. I'm extremely grateful to have you all here. And maybe I left some details out, so why don't you also show yourself, show your face, and also tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Thank you for your introduction. Yes, I'm a documentary filmmaker, and Colors of Tobi is my first feature-length documentary. And I did it after I graduated at the Hungarian Film School, SFE. And it was a really long journey and a tough journey, but I really enjoyed making this film. It took almost 5 years from the first ideas till the finishing. And I can't wait to talk about it more.
Vlad, maybe you can also tell us a bit about yourself.
I'm very glad to be here with you because Colors of Tobi was like a super relaxing movie to watch during this weekend. I'm sorry I haven't watched it previously. It was on my to-do list. Now I had a reason to do it. And it was such a nice movie. I didn't know it was a debut movie. I'm so glad. It looks it looks like somebody who has a career in movie making. So that's with a laudatio for you. And I work I think the most important part of my work is that I am a PhD researcher in my country, in Romania, in Bucharest. And I'm trying to study the political interests of the LGBTQIA community in my country. It's a small research, but I hope I will be able to develop it in a nationwide research. And I've had the chance and the honor to talk with the LGBTQIA+ people from all my country, especially with lots of trans people and with some trans people of Roma descendants. And it was very nice to hear their opinions, to see how they have a strong political ideas, and also to learn about their struggles with the Romanian political system, with the Romanian medical system, and everything that it entails.
Thank you, Vlad. Matthias, maybe you can also tell us a bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Matthias, and as you said, I work for Transparent, and I'm honored to be here. You said that Transparent is based on Prague, but it's not. It's just working. Oh, sorry, I'm just super nervous right now.
No worries. But it's also like a more like working all around the country.
All around Czech Republic, yes.
Great. And can you maybe tell us a bit about Spectrum? Like what is the goal of Spectrum? You shared an interesting story regarding Spectrum, maybe something that we can also relate to one of the opening scenes of the film.
So Spectrum is based on UCT, University of Chemistry and Technology. And I started it because in this university, they don't give diplomas to trans students after transitioning. They don't want to change their names and genders on their diplomas. So it was basically a reaction to this event. And we want to make life easier for trans, non-binary, gay, lesbian, and all LGBTQI plus students on this university. So we organize events that make them feel at ease, that they are safe, and just basically creating a safe space for them to be in. And we are communicating with the school, and we are trying to just make the situation for these students better.
And I think that's why I think these kind of legal steps are super crucial. And what is really fascinating about a film, Colors of Tobi, is that one of the opening scenes, when we see the main character Tobi sitting down with their parents, actually going through the legal gender change process, and that's something probably won't see in a long time in Hungary, unfortunately, due to some changes that the government made in the regulation, the constitution. And I was wondering, Alexa, like how making this film and then, as you said, like working on it for 5 years and then finishing the film and then premiering the film and then hearing about these new rules and new regulations made you feel as a director. And maybe Matthias and Vlad, maybe you can also connect this. How are trans rights? How is the state of trans rights currently in your country? So, Alexa, if you don't mind sharing your ideas around this question.
Yeah, in the film, it's not really detailed what is exactly going on, because I wanted to focus more on the family's emotional life and the family dynamics. And there are some hints like what procedure Tobi has to go through, but it's not like I didn't want this movie to be an educational movie, or like I felt we have these discussions to talk about things like that, but the human side was much more important. But of course, during those years, there were some restrictions and some changes. Tobi was probably one of the last person in Hungary who could change their gender legally. And it's very sad. And I was always like devastated when I heard like it's getting worse and worse. But I was happy that we are making this film, and it shows like non-binary people or transgender people just want to live their lives. That's all. And I really hope that others can see it as well.
What is the state of trans rights in the Czech Republic right now? It's like this is one side of, like, diploma is one side of the things, but can anyone with ease change their gender when it comes to legally, but also like can they go through transition with any support from the state? How is the current situation?
So I don't think it's as bad as in Hungary right now, but it's still pretty bad. In order to legally change your gender and name, because names are really bound together with the gender in Czech Republic, you need to go through this process called sterilization, which is basically castration. And it's really, really horrible because not every trans and non-binary person wants this, but they need to do this, go through this in order to legally change their gender, basically a one letter in a license.
And I think that's also very interesting because that's also what the film shows, that this journey not necessarily involve biological transition. I think that's also a very beautiful detailed layer of the film, like how we see this step by step, someone coming of age, going through these steps, and then understanding themselves as a non-binary person. How is the situation, Vlad, in Romania? You had the chance to talk to many trans people throughout your research. What are your impressions based on those?
Well, I'm sorry to inform you, I cannot deliver more positive information. It's the same, actually. People struggle with this situation. Actually, in Romania, the only way to change your name, not your name, sorry, to change your gender, because also Romanian names tend to be gendered. We don't have like a name cannot go for a man or a woman. It's usually you can understand the gender because of it. That's a linguistic thing. People have to sue the state. So this is the only way you can change your gender in Romania. You have to sue the state. You have to bring them a ton of private information. The judge is allowed to ask you to even prove that you have. It's a good thing if you have a straight relationship. So you're a trans woman and you need to show that you have a husband, and not a husband because you cannot get married. You have a partner, and you have to bring photos of you kissing that partner in order for the judge to be more lenient towards giving you a solution. Wow. And I asked some of my trans friends, I said, and what happened when you gave all this information to the judge, and how did they decide? How could they give an answer, yes or no? And they said it's usually a no. They don't allow for it, so the state doesn't allow this. And sometimes they quote from the Bible. You have a judge in a modern state quoting from the Bible and saying, I cannot allow you to change your gender. In very few cases, they allow it. If you get a very progressive and modern thinking judge, you get it. But a lot of trans people live with their dead names in their passports, in everything. And a lot of trans people in Romania cannot go to customs to exit the country because they are made a mockery when they go there. The customs officers, they start, oh, but you're a man or you're a woman, show me your genitalia and stuff like that. There's been a lot of horrible cases. So I'm sorry, I have to rally with my discussion colleagues and say it's very bad in Romania also, and we do not have a clear system for this, and you cannot change your gender easily.
I think that's why it's so amazing and so beautiful that we are all here, and it's all different parts of Eastern Europe and Central Europe or Central Eastern Europe. It's presented here in a sense because I think this region has a long way to go, and also, of course, current politics has one way of handling it. But the other reason I love this film, Colors of Tobi, Alexa, is that because it has a really it shows us a really supportive family, and that's what I also experienced through discussions with trans friends and gay friends also in Hungary, that even though the government has a certain agenda or narrative, and even though bureaucratic changes can be very difficult, the society can also just be very welcoming and supportive in some level or in some ways or in certain bubbles. And looking at this film, that you see a countryside, a Szabolcs family, basically being this supportive for me was always fascinating to see, like, as we call it in Hungary, a Kadar cube flat where they are coming from, and they are this supportive of their own children. That was amazing. And that's also something I wanted to ask you from you, Matthias, Vlad, and also Alexa. What is your impression regarding the society in your countries, also the families in your countries? Do you think that these kind of family models are very common, or this was just a beautiful coincidence that we have this? Alexa.
I think that the Tusa family is really exceptional. Like, they are really open-minded and super nice, and it was great to work with them. And I think that there is also, like, I'm saying that there is a change in the society, and because we are talking about those issues, and there are some good examples. I think people are getting more and more open, and I think that is not the situation in Hungary is not as tragical as we think. That was my experience, and I think, like, you don't need to live in a certain place to be nice, like, and
Exactly.
understand, because the human part of it is like, it's universal. Like, anyone can feel that there are families everywhere in the world having certain difficulties, and this could be just one of the difficulties. Like, and I think the family point of view can give some help to the viewers to understand and empathize with Tobi's situation and the parent situation.
What is the situation in Romania when it comes to this, Vlad? What do you think? How is society, and how are families when these kind of stories happen?
Bear in mind that my answer will be just from my experience and from the dialogues and interviews I pulled with with around 30 people from around the country, east, west, north, and south. I've traveled to take those interviews, so I have a little bit of insight from different cities in my country. From one side, you have supportive families; they exist, so that's a good thing. But they're not as many as I would have hoped to encounter in all my 30 interviews. And on the other side, it's Cluj. It's a more modern city, more modern-oriented city. It's in the west of Romania. And towards the east of Romania, we have Iași, where even in the universities, students are being discriminated against during exams. So during the exam, when they present scientific things, the professor says, stop, stop, stop. You look a little bit gay. Are you gay? That's not okay. During the exam, in an exam. In any case, so we have the supportive family, but we also have this horrible religious brainwash. I'm a Christian. I was baptized, and I came to terms with how I understand my church and my religion quite late in my life. I'm 34, so I understood that church is not everything at 20. And at some point, I even had to go through 10 years of sexual abstinence because God would save me and make me not gay. So this is what we're taught in Romania. So can you imagine how families are with this information? They are not bad families. They are loving families. We have families who keep close in a nucleus, but they are taught that being queer is a bad and unholy thing. So even though some families are very good, we still have children who are thrown out of the house with only the clothes on them because they are gay, because they are trans, because they are lesbian. So I don't know, there is familial love, but there is also political and religious brainwashing. But I loved in Colors of Tobi, I haven't seen a family hug so much, kiss so much, say I love you so much. It was a very pleasant and happy feeling.
Yeah, it's a beautiful family. I'm sure, Alexa, it was a wonderful experience to film them and follow them. They're communicating so much about emotions, and in some cases the father, which is always like masculine energies, are always associated with like not being able to go through these emotions. It was really beautiful to see like how the father also was really supportive, and I agree. But before we get into this, I was wondering, Matthias, if you can share some of your experiences regarding the Czech Republic. How are families, friends, the society is also manifesting these kind of things?
So I feel like in Czechia, it's really divided. I don't really know how, because we are one of the least Christian countries in Europe. We have like only 7% of religious people. I think that's like a really low number. So I don't really know where this hate and discrimination is coming from. But there are like really supportive families, but I really haven't seen one that is as supportive as Tobi's. I really love the family in the movie. I really like the father. I don't want to quote because I don't really know the exact words he said, but he said something along the line that he doesn't need to understand, he just need to accept. And I really, really like that quote. That line, it was beautiful, and it sums everything up beautifully, that you don't need to understand, you just need to love and accept.
Exactly. Very, very, very beautiful family. And if you're talking about a family, I was wondering, Alexa, if you can tell us like how they are doing, what happened with Tobi and Eva and the father, and like how they are doing these days. Did the film impacted their lives? Did they become ambassadors of gay rights in any way? What happened to the film?
They were doing like before or during the movie, they were part of LGBTQ organizations. Tobi was working for Budapest Pride for a while, so it was an ongoing thing, but we didn't have like enough time to put everything in the movie. But I think that the movie, like there were so much positive feedback, and it was a really nice experience to them, as far as I know. And we were able to travel together to a few places, to some festivals, and it was also a really nice experience. And nowadays they are like, we are still in touch, luckily. And Eva went through tougher period because of some illness, but she is fine now, so I'm very happy for her. And Tobi is still living in the capital, and okay, so this is what I can share in the public, but
of course,
yeah, that's they are fine. And sometimes, to be honest, I'm really missing because like those long years, it was really like we were part of each other's lives. And of course, after the movie, it will not be the same, but sometimes I'm missing it. So it's interesting, but I'm happy that we're still friends.
That's great. Vlad and Matthias, I was wondering if for you on a personal level, your coming of age story or your own experiences, did you see any similarities, or did you see anything that other friends of yours or your communities were sharing that Tobi went through? Because I think the family is, of course, a very important layer in this film, but it's also like the chance that we can get inside the heart and the mind of a person who is going through this transition. Like I think it's beautiful the way it's depicted, the way the colors are changing. And when we are in these times, no matter who we are, it's always a very dramatic period, but it's always a lot of changes, especially when you are trying to find your own identity in that sense. So I was wondering if the film touched you or impacted you in these ways, if it reminded you of your own coming of age stories.
Yeah, it did actually. That there, I see a lot of changes in Tobi's life, because they went from like one end to another, and there was a lot of bumps around the way, and a lot of coming outs. I feel like non-binary people go through a lot of coming outs. They went through a bisexual, pansexual, gay, transgender, non-binary, and I can really relate to that because I done a lot of coming out myself, because I also came out first as a bi person, then as a trans man, then as a non-binary person, and it's difficult because first of all you just need to find yourself, and I feel like the film emphasizes on this topic a lot, coming out to yourself. because before you come out to anyone else, you come out to yourself first. And that's super difficult time in your life when you're just trying to figure everything out.
We lost you, Matthias, but you're back. That's good.
Oh,
Well, you're back. I think you just finished
hi.
your sentence in a high, and it was a beautiful thing you mentioned here. So thanks so much for that. And how was coming out of yourself for you, Vlad? I was wondering if you can connect to this side.
I agree with what Matthias said, and I don't think it's only for non-binary people that they have to come out so many times. I mean, it's different than for a cisgendered person, but as gay also I had to do a lot of coming outs, but not for my identity, but in front of a lot of people. So it's not actually, you don't do a coming out today and you have like a banner in the public square and then everybody knows about you. You do it progressively. Sometimes you tell it to your family or to your friends or to some strangers you meet on a plane, which happened to me, or to a professor or to whatever. And you continuously do this coming out. And now I have a wedding band on my finger. And when people see me with my partner, Lucian, they kind of understand easier because they can match the wedding bands. But otherwise, we have to do coming outs even in front of people at hotels. I've recently come back from a short trip and I had to say, yeah, we need a queen bed, a double bed, not twins. And there's, but you're two men. Oh, yes, of course, we can do that. And I was like, yeah. And, but I am grateful that my family was supportive and loving. I'm sad that they weren't supportive and loving faster than when they did it, because my coming out in front of my family happened around 22 or so, and my horrible religious fanaticism happened at 18, and it really messed with my head and with my ethos. But when they actually mustered the power to talk about this to me, they asked what's going on, and I finally said them. They were super supportive. My father and my partner had a very, very strong bond. We would go to family dinners every Sunday, and they would usually spend 30 minutes, 1 hour talking, just the two of them, talking politics, history. And my father isn't with us anymore, but he was into this discussions about books, sports. He was smarter than me, a lot smarter. And my boyfriend loved him for this, and they spoke a lot. So this is my model to share with you. But sadly, I also saw coming outs which ended badly. You think you only see that in a movie, and you think that in Eastern and Central Europe, where family is a very important thing, they preach that thing in the church and the politicians. You'd think that families would react better to such a situation, even if they don't understand. I would expect of all families to say, okay, I don't understand, I don't like it, we'll talk tomorrow. But no, some families throw their children in the street. Literally, they push them out the door and lock the door and say, I never want to see you again. And I cannot be happy for myself knowing that my community is in this despair.
Yeah, that's what I also think the film that you created, Alexa, is beautiful, because it's very inspiring. Like, within my family, when my sister came out to us, it happened when she was much older, when she was in her early 20s. And I wonder, like, how our family's life have been different if we would have learned about this much earlier during her teenage years. Maybe it would have been easier for the family and also for her. It's a very supportive family. I'm really grateful and proud of my parents and everyone involved, even in the extended family. But I think that's also really fascinating for me that there seems to be a new generation, the generation of Tobi, that has maybe the chance to do these kind of things much earlier, and that's where I'm very optimistic that there is a change in society when the parents can be involved earlier, or they can be challenged earlier. But I don't know, Alex, if you experienced this yourself when working with the family, like how these kind of generational changes are happening, or did you feel any of these as you're working with them?
Yeah, when I was like Tobi was talking about a lot of things that I didn't know because they were so much younger than I am. It was almost like a decade, and sometimes I felt a bit old, to be honest, because like there were some so fresh information, and I really felt like, oh my God, I need to keep up with Tobi, and it was really a funny experience. But I think that Tobi's generation is great, and what I heard about Tobi's friends or school mates, like they were all really, really nice, and it was out of question that Tobi is Tobi, and a lot of friends protected Tobi and understood really easily, like Tobi just want to be themselves, and that's it. And it was really nice to hear those stories. And what I wanted to tell with this film is, again, like I think there is no good, like you cannot force a coming out. Tobi needed their own time, and the family needed their own time as well. So it was like, I think it shows that you just need to give time, patience, love, and respect, and it's all gonna be okay.
And what I was also wondering about is not only that they are super supportive and they are communicating their emotions openly, they are honest with each other, they're hugging a lot, as you said, a lot. Like, I also agree, like it's such a beautiful family dynamic, but they also let you with your camera, like you with your director of photography and your sound recordist, and the three of you in these small spaces following them, and it's almost you're invisible, like they just really flow into this. And I was wondering if you think the filmmaking process helped them in this in some way or another. Like, did you feel that you following them on this journey is somewhat helpful? You being there sometimes is helpful for them in any way throughout this period of time?
I would like to believe that it is, and I like they were really natural, almost from point zero in front of the camera. And we, like my colleagues who were with me on set, András Táboros, the DOP, and Tamás Bohács, the sound designer, they were like not just very good at their profession, but they were really nice people. So when we arrived, it was not like, let's turn on the camera and shoot. No, first of all, we had our coffee, we were talking for a lot, for hours maybe, and then we did some takes, and we usually did longer takes, 1 or 2 each day. But it's like, it was a really nice experience. And also during the editing process, I had very nice experience with Marianna Rudas, the editor of the movie. And it was like, I think that when the camera was there, it's like you cannot, we were, how do you say it? Sorry, I forgot this word. Like you interact or you change things when the camera is there. This is what I wanted to say. Like, I don't want to put myself in the illusion like, oh, we were just a fly on the wall, even though the film is using this observational method. But I always wanted to stay respectful and not to influence the situations in a way that it's not comfortable. And I always wanted to record the reality. And that they were the main ideas to keep it together. Yeah. But I really hope that it was helpful for them as well. I really hope.
I mean, I think I don't know, because I'm also a filmmaker, but it's from being in the audience of this film, I have this feeling, because what I really enjoyed as well is that it's not only the good moments, it's not only it was very raw and honest. Like, there are doubts and there is stress and there are conflicts. And I wanted to ask you, Vlad, because we talked about this a little bit, this idea of how the supporting family of a gay or trans person is experiencing stress in the process of supporting someone, and this discussion of supporting someone, but the support itself can be tough on the person who is supporting. I was wondering if you could share your ideas or your experiences on this, or what you see as a pattern these days regarding this kind of discussion.
Well, for one thing, but this is only a guess. I don't know if this is reality. Maybe Alexa can confirm or not. Tobi's parents seem to be educated. I saw them working on a computer. They had the knowledge how to go through the administrative system. So I think that helps a bit, because being educated always makes you more open to new things. So I think that helped. My parents, my father was educated, my mother is, because she's still alive. They had some degrees, like a bachelor's degree or something. So they didn't finish their studies at high school. So I think that helps a lot in making a person more open. But what I've noticed, and it hit me in the face when I was watching this documentary. My partner's away on a business trip, and I was like alone, and in the night I said, I'll watch it now. It was 4 a.m. and I was watching it and pausing to make some notes and then watching. And at some point I see how the mother is crying because she cannot cope with some information which Tobi delivered. And Tobi hugs her and caresses her hand. And but Tobi was also under a lot of stress at that point, because it was one of the arguments they had, or not arguments, the little discussions they had, which were in contradiction. But the fact that Tobi could find strength in them to support their mother at this moment helped, because it was a good survival strategy. Then the mother was calm and she could support Tobi back. So I think I wasn't taught this thing. In school, we are only taught a lot of useless things. I know how to do some math, but I cannot apply it in all the aspects of my life. But I wish I would have been taught about death. I've had 4 family members die on me in the past couple of years, and it was really nasty to cope with that. I wish I would have been taught on how to talk and support my parents. I was only taught that parents have to support their children. So I like that, Alexa. I don't know if you did it because you wanted to do that, or it just happened in your documentary, but you showed how gay and trans and queer people can also bring support in their discussions with their family to ease the family in the process of acceptance. And that's very important, because you might have a good family, a family which will support you eventually, but they need a little bit of help to educate themselves on the topic of queerness. Otherwise, they might have a negative response and you could get into conflict. And I don't think there is a child who comes from an okay-ish family who wants to leave their house. Of course, you want to stay as long as you want with a loving family. But if the loving family doesn't get the information they need to be more tolerant and accepting and so on, the conflict arises, and that's bad. So I wasn't taught that, but I saw it happen naturally with Tobi. And I wish more queer people could know that they have this tool. It's called communication, and that they have to be strong. I know it's not the purpose of a person trying to come out to support people who are being discriminatory against them, but it can help a lot, and it can be a survival strategy, so you don't end up on streets, or you don't lose your parents, because maybe you really love your parents, but at some point you cannot cope with homophobia and you have to leave. But if you find the right way, I don't know which it is. It's a personal thing which you have to do in your each person's situation. And I know people are watching. I don't mean to say that you have to do it. If you feel unsafe, get out of that family. Go to friends, go to an association, be safe. Your personal safety is more important than anything. But if you feel you can do anything good with that situation, go for it, try to do it. Take the example of Tobi, and they supported their mother when the mother was not able to give it at that moment. She just needed to receive support. Sorry, I spoke so much on this.
No, but you said beautiful things. I don't know, Matthias, if you agree, or what is your impression regarding this idea of, because I think what's very important as well here, that the family is creating a space where you can do this. Many times what is missing is that the family is not actually providing that space at the first place. That's why I think Tobi's family is such a beautiful prime example of how you create a supporting, safe space for someone. So I was wondering, Matthias, if you agree with Vlad on this, or what was your impression watching the film?
Yes, I agree that Tobi's family is very educated on this topic, and I really like that idea of parents educating themselves on what their children are going through, because if it was something different, like an illness, for example, or something else, they would educate themselves. But with trans or LGBTQI plus people, we usually see that parents either don't want to educate themselves, or they're educating themselves from wrong sources. I see that a lot, actually, that parents of trans youth are not educating themselves enough from the good sources, and they're really, really resourceful about the topic because they read the wrong things, and they think that their children are not safe. And we actually see that in the movie, because the mom read some article that Tobi can't go to the men's bathroom until they're on testosterone, which is baloney. They can go anywhere they want as long as they feel safe.
Mm.
And I feel like she read some really horrible article that something is going to happen no matter what. The trans people are unsafe whenever they go, which is not true. There are spaces where we are safe, where we can be safe. We need to create those spaces usually, but they are spaces for us, and it's important for the parents to know that being trans doesn't, or queer or LGBTQI plus doesn't translate to being unsafe, because a lot of parents think that. For example, my mom thinks I'm not safe because I'm trans and non-binary. She sees that as an obstacle in my life, that I need to keep that part of myself hidden. I need to keep that part of myself secret, which I'm not doing because I'm a trans rights activist. So everyone knows. But I personally don't feel unsafe. I feel like it's really empowering to do what I do. Like, being activism is very empowering. I mean, it's not for everyone, but it's important for parents to know that being LGBTQ plus doesn't mean you'll be unhappy and unsafe, and they need to educate themselves from like good resources, good doctors, and good specialists.
I mean, I think what's also interesting with this example of which toilet you're going into is that this is something that no matter who you are, it's going to happen to you at this age, in a sense of your parents telling you to do certain things in a certain way. And I think that for me, that was also fascinating about a film, is like how the idea of growing up and growing into an adult and making your own decisions and like really being who you are is also like on the surface. Of course, it connects to much more important and deeper issue, and it's finding your own true identity and having the courage to do that. But I think that was also very fascinating for me, like this kind of parent children dynamics, is like how parents are really trying to like losing their control or like gaining control and trying to understand what's going on. But how was that, Alexa, when you were like following the story and you're editing this film? And I think one of the it's such a cinematic film because you're using the film language in such a beautiful way. Like, the title and also the way we are jumping in time, but at the same time we are not jumping in time. It's like it was such a beautiful element to this film. So I'm just wondering, like, this kind of innovative editing idea and looking, how difficult was it to achieve this, and this kind of way of looking at your story in this kind of non-linear way, but also create that dramaturgy and create that linear way. And just to connect this to this previous topic, like, what kind of changes did you see in them as you were following them in both the mother and the child? Like, what kind of inner changes you were starting to discover as following the story?
Like when we started the editing, it was almost at the same time we started filming. And we kept using this method. Like, we watched scenes, we did a shorter version, then we did a much shorter version. And we made some notes. We put stickers on the wall, and we made the scenes to categories. And there were so many. It was crazy. And it was really, really enormous work to watch the material, but also to make an order, because that is what editing is about, to make the right order and the right length. And first, when we realized that Tobi is changing their hairstyles every scene, and to be honest, it was like this in the reality. Like, I've never seen Tobi with the same hair color, like, ever in my life. It was always a surprise. And when we were started editing, like, but they are blonde and now they are having black hair. Like, how can we make this? And we realized it's not gonna work, and we need to make an emotional arc and not a chronological arc for the movie. So we started to do the categorization, like Tobi's peak points and emotional states, and the parents, and especially Eva's emotional states. And this is how we put it together. And after some time, we realized, like, the changing of the hair is like a metaphor of changing the identity. And then we were like, okay, now we are not going to use the same hair color in the scenes, like just really not to care about it, and use it as film language. And that's how the title of the movie came as well. Like, at a really late end, the producer of the film, Gábor Oswát, came up with this idea, because I was completely lost in how to title the movie. So I was very grateful to him. And it was like what I've seen during shooting and during editing, because it is also interesting when you are there in the reality and recording something, you don't even know what you have. And when you go back home and rewatch the scene, like, oh my God, how many things have happened. But like, it's a different state of mind when you are shooting and when you're editing. And we've had so many like eureka moments with Mariana. And it was really nice to get to the second part of your question, to see Tobi growing up and becoming more mature. And as Vlad mentioned, like, to be there for their parents. Like, we experienced on set as well, like, Tobi is really changing and takes responsibility, and it was so nice to experience that. And what I've seen in Eva and Zoltán, I really like also Zoltán's quote, like, they let it go, they let Tobi go from the family nest, and they understood like what they could do as a research, or what they could experience with Tobi. Like, they did everything, and from that point there's not much to do, and they really became relaxed and let it go. So this was the dynamic that changed, and this is what I wanted to put into the film, somehow, and I hope that we managed it.
You managed for sure. It's beautiful, beautiful film. And one thing that what you said before, Matthias, also just inspired a new question from my side is this idea of educating yourself the right way, or taking part in the community as a parent and supporting your own child. I think that was also for me one of the opening scenes when we see Tobi and the parents on Pride, and there is a speech about being a transparent, and that was really, really beautiful. And I was wondering if this is something that you see in your community, Matthias, or also Vlad, or also Alexa, if you've seen this with other parents, kind of creating their own communities and helping their own child and helping themselves, and also being part of a bigger rainbow family in a way, and trying to support their own children through that as well, like taking part in activism and changing things and having an impact. Matthias, can you hear us?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I can hear you. Sorry. I didn't know if Vlad or I should speak.
Sorry, but just go on.
Yeah, I actually see a lot of parents trying to educate themselves on trans topics specifically. We, as Transparent, as organization, we organize support groups, not just for trans and non-binary people, but also for their partners and parents. And you can see that the parents are writing you emails and they're like, I want to support my child. How can I do it? What should I do? What does my child need? And you can really see that they want to educate themselves. They want to support their children. They just don't know how. And they're just trying to find the right space and right place to educate themselves correctly. And I think it's really beautiful. In the movie, the parents go on the Pride with Tobi, and I think that's really beautiful. And I see that not as much as the parents on support groups, but if I see that, it really melts my heart to see supportive parents and parents who wants to educate themselves on the topics and on the events that their children are going through.
And what about Romania in this sense, Vlad? What do you think about parents taking part on more the activism side, or just taking part in a larger community and helping their children that way?
What I can report from my country is that during Pride events, for example, I see a lot of parents supporting their children, coming with them to march on the streets of, or to have the lovely stroll on the main boulevards of Bucharest. And that was a very nice thing to see. You can really see them, because it's like a mother going to their children, and it's like, I have a smudge here. They're like, leave me alone, mother. But they're waving a flag, an LGBT-friendly flag. So that's nice to see that that idea. I've even seen young parents with strollers with babies in them. So I don't know if somebody was queer, because they looked very hetero, but they came to support the march, the event, the Pride parade, with their baby, and it was a cisgendered man and woman, and with their lovely baby. And I was like, what are you doing here? They said, we're supportive. This is the way we want to grow our child. But even though I became aware through the interviews I did with the respondents to my research that there are some parent support groups for trans people in Romania, it's not a public thing. Like, you have to kind of search to find such a support group. And it usually happens in the big cities, where there are organizations, LGBTQIA-friendly organizations, who can offer psychological support or meetings, or group meetings and stuff like that. But it's not like I wanted to say like in Great Britain, but I was looking at my phone. Great Britain just is using their powers to block the Nicola Sturgeon's law, which allowed trans people to change their name easily. So Great Britain is not an example anymore. Sorry, their prime minister is a bad guy. But if you think of America, I don't know, or even, I don't know, even with you, Matthias, or we don't have that openness in society. You cannot just Google and find a support group for a transparent and you can go there. You might, more likely you will find conversion therapy, you will find religious people trying to do a lot of convincing that trans is not okay and stuff like that. And I've recently been flabbergasted by an article. It was quite good investigative journalism, which showed that this is in respect to abortion, but it clearly has a context for anti-LGBTQIA plus situations, that there is a lot of funding from churches from America in Romania to create political, to create an anti-LGBTQIA scene in Romania. So that was like, what do the American churches want with Romania? And why are they pouring funding? They're trying to stop clinics from giving abortions. In Romania, that is a right. It's nobody can take it away. Well, politicians can take it away if they want. But now you have these religious people doing lobby, which is forbidden by the Romanian law. And I think they will do it against trans people also. And that's a bit scary for me. So there is support on a micro level, you know, grassroots, but on a macro level, the situation is a bit scary.
But probably that's why we also need to continue these kind of conversations, and I think that's why the Tusa family, Tobi's parents, are a great example. That you just go there, you're visible there. And what you said, like, even within that scene, I had this impression that Tobi maybe just want to hang out with their friends, but the parents are also there, but they are like doing it in their own way. It's such a sweet teenage moment, in a sense. We all had these kind of teenage moments, and
I had, sorry to interrupt you, just to give you this idea. One of the respondents, it was a 50-year-old lesbian woman. She told me one thing, that it's like her, I'm quoting her or paraphrasing her. She said that we are afraid of darkness, you know, and people usually are afraid of what they don't know. So she said that, like, she used to go in and out with her girlfriend or her partner from her apartment, and her neighbors would be like, oh, who's that? What's happening? Oh, there's two women living together. At some point, she went to their neighbors and said, hello, I'm a lesbian woman and my name is, and their neighbors were like, okay, well, I'm whatever the name of that person was. And they became friends. They just needed to be seen and to interact. And they weren't afraid of the lesbian couple on the block. The neighbors became friends with them. So,
but I don't know if we have more time. I think we do. But I'm just really grateful that basically this film is doing this kind of work. Alexa, I think everyone who is involved in gay or trans rights in any way, or just anyone who's involved with this, or who just everyone in a sense, should be really grateful for this film, because you're doing that exactly with the film. It's like a lighting torch, and you're educating people and helping people, and it's done through emotions, and it's done in a really, really beautiful way. I think our time is off. I'm not sure if we have any questions coming from the audience. Let me just check. No questions yet. Maybe questions will come later, but let me check if we have more time. Do you have anything you wanted to add that we didn't have the chance to discuss during this 1 hour, that you just wanted to add to this discussion that came up? I was wondering maybe if you can tell us about Alexa, maybe about your future projects and the future of maybe Tobi. It was really heartwarming for me to see the film is doing so well in festivals and receiving an award in Thessaloniki, and also like being really visible, and also in Hungary, like how it was actually helping trans people through the active presence of your participants. So that's why I was wondering if Tobi or Eva took up a more active role in activism in any way.
I think they were both pretty active, and I think the film is their activism in a way. Like this was their intention to show it to many people and to make the world see like they are just a regular family. And I was really happy when Eva said like, don't just show please do not just show the nice moments, also show when we have conflicts. And it was really nice to hear that from her, because I think it was important. And I am happy that the film was shown in many places, and I think like what we wanted to achieve, it happened. Or like it went to so many places, and there was so much feedback, and so there were some personal stories when people reached out to Tobi or Eva and they asked for some advice, and they were helping. Yeah, so it was, from my side, it was a really nice experience as well. So I'm happy that this was the first film.
That's great. And Matthias and Vlad, do you have anything you want to give a shout out to? Like, do you want to highlight anything that you're involved with for the future, or anything using this platform that you want to give some highlight to by any chance, or anything that you wanted to add to this conversation but we maybe didn't touch upon?
Matthias, I'll go first this time, so you don't say you always have to be the first one. Okay, I just wanted to say that it's so wonderful that we have a trans focused documentary and non-binary focused documentary from Hungary. I wish my Romanian directors would approach this subject very soon. I think it's so important to have trans lives and non-binary lives and queer lives documented as much as possible. In this case, we had a beautiful documentary, like really well done. Congrats, Alexa. But it doesn't matter. Just I wish everybody would film their experiences, and if it's safe for them, post it or write about it anonymously, because it's so important to get it out there. This is not my idea. This is one of my feminist political theory studies professor. She told me, you need to give society examples of how normal you are, of how the queer agenda is actually go out and buy milk and walk your dog and go to see a movie. It's nothing weird in our queer agenda. And that it's very important, again, if you are safe to do that, you shouldn't expose yourself if it's not safe, to try to make your experience public. It's so important, as much as you can, because we are out of a lot of narratives. You know, the Danish girl was done with a man. They couldn't employ a trans person. The nice movie, you know, and so on and so forth. And we still lack representation in movies, in mass media, in literature. So it's important. I think this is my message. Please publish your experiences, even if you're not a writer or a documentary maker. Just try to give a good example. Just show that you exist. You are good as the way you are.
Thank you. And Matthias?
Yeah, I completely agree with Vlad. We need more LGBTQI plus representation and representation of us in general, because it makes us look like normal human beings, and we are normal human beings. We need to be seen more as such.
Great. Thank you so much for this conversation. I think we touched a lot of great things. I think we inspired many people, I hope, many parents and many people. And I'm just really grateful for this film. Again, Alexa, every time I watch it, it's a wonderful experience. And thank you, Vlad and Matthias. It was a really amazing conversation. We didn't get any questions in the end, but maybe in the Facebook we will see that and we can reply there. Thanks for KineDok for organizing this and for their amazing ways of distributing films. And for the audience who's watching this, so as we said before, every once in a while on Mondays, usually you have the chance to watch films online and then listen to a discussion like this. And these are always happening until March, usually on Mondays. So thank you again. Thanks for my guests, and thank you for watching us. And thank you. Bye.
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 Bye. Bye. Bye.